The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? Thank you all for coming along. Can I just do a quick sound and screen check? So can you all hear me fine? And you should be able to see a Convertri funnel saying getting started webinar. You can just type a message in the chat just to let me know. Great, got a couple of yeses there. Hello from Tenerife. Hello from London. Hello, Marcia. Okay, so it seems like you can all hear me and see my screen, which is a good start. So just to introduce myself first, my name is Dan. And if any of you have ever had questions in the support desk or our Facebook chat, you may well have come across me before. And if you want to put a face to a name, here I am on our About page. So today I'm going to be showing you how to build a simple lead funnel in Convertri. And by the end of it, we should have a page looking like this. And the idea is that we'll have this live funnel, which someone will be able to sign up for. They'll be able to be added into our autoresponder and then be sent to a thank you page where they can download our lead magnet. So after I've done that, I'll then show you some of my favorite hacks in our editor, just some little tips and tricks that are going to make your life using Convertri a lot easier. And then after that, we'll have like a Q&A section where if you've got any questions, anything Convertri related at all, you'll be able to ask those and we'll get them answered for you. If you do have any questions, like while I'm showing the demo that are related to the demo itself, then feel free to ask as well. But if you've got any more like general questions, just save those for the end so we can keep that running smoothly. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to come into our funnel area here. And first thing we're going to want to do is add a new page. And you're then going to be brought up to our template screen. Now you can see we've got loads of beautiful templates in here that our designers make for our users. And although they are really nice to use, we are actually going to build one from scratch today, just because then we can show you the whole start to finish process. And also it is just a lot of fun to use the editor. So we'll call our page just opt-in. And then we'll go into the editor itself. So when that loads up, we'll see we've got a blank page here. It's a clean slate. And the first thing that we're going to want to do is add our background image for our page. So we'll come over onto our toolbar here. This is where you add all your elements onto your pages. And if we select image, it's going to bring up this image upload modal. Now we do have an integration with Pixabay. So we would be able to search for an image if we wanted to do so. So I'll just show that off. If someone can just type in the chat like an object or a place, and we'll try and get an example for you. So DJ, we type in DJ, you'll see that it's going to bring up like some decks, headphones, loads of different images relating to DJing. And if you wanted to, you could use one straight from here and add it to your page. You don't need to buy it or anything like that. It's completely free to use. And that would go straight onto your page. Now, we're not going to do that today. We're going to add it from our own files. And the main reason for this is because the API only allows a maximum resolution of 1920 by 1280. And we can actually add a much larger image from our own files. And because Convertri's loading speed is so quick, it's not going to affect the load time of the page. And we're still going to have that high resolution. So here's the image that we're going to use now. And I'm just going to show you how to upload it, even though I've already got it here. I'll delete that now. And then if you click on the upload button here, it's going to bring up your files. Now you won't be able to see that as I've got it on only to show this window, but if you were just to find a file you like, bring it up and then it will upload here. And you'll see these are the images that I've uploaded in the past. So once you've done that, select the image and it will be added straight to your page. And to get this full width effect that you've got here, what we're going to want to do is select the double arrows, and that's going to make the image full width. And as you can see, it hasn't lost its resolution, still looks really clear. And then we're going to just want to resize it so that it fills the page. So using these drag handles, We'll bring it down to about there, and that's going to give us a nice size for our background. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is add our header and footer panels. Now these are more just like a design feature for the page. They're not really doing anything, but they just make the page look a lot more finished. So again, you're going to want to use the full width tool, and that will snap that to either side of the page. And then we'll change the background color of this. So we had like an orangey, beigey color. And as you can see, we've got here, Convertri's got a live color picker, which is really useful. So you can see if you want to have a play around with it, you can see what different colors look like. You don't have to set it, wait for it to update and then change it. It does that in live time for you. So we'll change it to something like this. We're just going off eye here. If you did want to have like an exact copy of a color that you've used before, you could add them into the RGB values here, but we're just using the color picker, so we won't need to do that now. And then once you've added the header, we can use the clone tool here to make an exact copy, so we don't need to find the color again. And then we'll just snap that to the bottom of the page. You can see you've got the hot pink snap lines, which is going to tell you that's exactly on point. And then we'll make this one a little bit bigger. So we've got those in now, and the next thing we're going to want to do is add another panel for the backdrop of where our form's going to go. So this is going to be the background for where our users are going to be signing up to. So if we resize that, we can always change this at a later time, but for now we'll have it to about there. And now we're going to add our text. So again, to the left toolbar, add the element in. And this is going to be like our headline and our copy to get people to hopefully sign up to our list. So if we go back to the demo page, our heading 7 top tips for slimming without starving. And then we'll add another text element for the main body of text. And we'll see if we can remember that. Find it hard to stick to a diet, I think it was. Yeah. Don't worry. So do we. Punctuate that properly. The 7 top tips for slimming without starving will help you lose weight by making simple lifestyle changes. And we'll just finish this off now. And I think that's about right. Yeah, near enough what we've got on there. And then the last 2 bits of text that we're going to put on is just a little prompt for our prospects so they know to enter their details below. And then the last one is going to be our spam text. Safe with us. Now you can see with the spam text, it's gone onto one line, onto 2 lines, but we want that on 1 line ideally. So we'll just lengthen out the text box, and then we can always decrease the size of the font at a later stage. But what we're going to do first, before we make individual edits, is set up our default styles for our text. So you'll see here that when we added our text, they all look the same. They have the Roboto font type, font 16, but we can actually edit that now so that they all are automatically updated to something that looks a lot better on the page, or something that you want to have on the page anyway, just different from the default. So if you go into the page here, the I, and then come to default text styles, you'll see that you're able to make edits to what the default fonts and font weight, font size, line spacing is on your page. So we're going to change that now. something that looks a little better. So we can go Lato. And as you can see in the background, it's updated that already. And that's because all the text that we've added so far is set to paragraph. And that is what we're editing at the moment. So we'll keep it to 16. We'll keep it to font weight, normal, text color black. But we're going to up the line spacing slightly just because it looks a little bit better like that. Okay, that's fine. So as you can see, it's updated. And if we were to go back and change it, let's just say we wanted to test out a different font, say caveat brush, you can see in the background or on the page, it's changed that already. But we don't want to use that because that doesn't look as clear. So we'll go back to Lato. And we do want to have a different style for our heading here because we want that to stand out on the page. So if we come over to page again and then go into heading 1, we can make edits to the main heading style. So we'll choose a font that's going to stand out a bit more. Noto Sans looks good. And we'll decrease that slightly. We don't want it as big as 36, so we'll go about 24. And we'll keep the line spacing the same for the headline. Now you'll notice when you come back onto the page, it hasn't updated this, and that's because it's still set to paragraph. So what you need to do is highlight the text, come up here to this more drop down, and then change it to heading 1, and you'll see it's updated that for us now automatically. So we've got our heading, we've got our main text, but we want to make some individual edits to these two here because they don't need to be as big. So we can highlight this again, we'll center align it and change the font size to about 12, and we'll do the same for our spam text. And that's just because these are more just little notes for our users. And we'll make the text element just the right size, just so it's not using up space that we don't need to take up. So the last thing then that we need to add to our panel here is our form elements, and this is going to be where our users add their information and are then able to sign up. So we'll add a first name tab in to start with, and then we'll add our email tab. And we're going to need to just move this up slightly so that we've got space for our submit button. And then we'll add that to the page as well. And that's going to allow users to actually submit their details and sign up for it. So we're going to make some slight changes to these buttons as well, just so they match the rest of the style of the page. So if we open up our element properties and then come into text styling, you can edit the placeholder text as well. So if you just wanted to have like name, you can change it and you'll see that it changes on the page as well. But we'll have it as first name, just so that our prospects are clear about what they need to enter. So we'll match it up to Lato, and we'll leave it at about 16 as well. Actually, we'll take it down to 14. And then we'll do the same for our email input. We'll keep that the same, change it to Lato, and go down to 14 again. And then for our submit button, we are going to want it to be slightly different. So we're going to want to make it to stand out a little bit from our main text. So we'll go into the button settings. We'll keep it as sign up mode because that's the mode that's going to submit the form. You can see here we've got loads of different modes, and we'll be using the download one later. But at the moment, we'll keep it as sign up. And we're going to change the label to download because that's what people are going to be doing. They'll be downloading our lead magnet. And we'll change that to Noto Sans to match our heading and bold. And then as you can see, we've got our form set up similarly now to this one. But you'll notice that we haven't rounded off the edges of our panel or made the background transparent. And we also haven't aligned any of our elements within the panel itself. So as you can see, once I've selected the panel, you've got these dashed hot pink lines, and that is basically showing us that everything within this panel is also contained and will move around if you move the panel itself. So what that means is we can align all of this at the click of one button. We don't have to move around each element separately. So we select our panel, come up here to our alignment tool, and then we're going to use center align, and that will push all the elements within the panel bang in the middle so that it's nice and neat. And then what we're going to do from here is just space the form out so it's got more room. So we can just use our arrow keys to nudge up the heading slightly, move the text up as well, just to give ourselves a bit more space down below. And I'm going to leave these unevenly spaced out for a reason, and I'll show you that in a second. So if we were to select all of these form elements using our shift click to select them all at once, we can then come back to our alignment toolbar and distribute vertically, and that's going to put even space between each one. So you'll see now there's an even gap between all of the form elements that we've got on the panel. So we'll just finish up editing this so it's nice and spread out. And now we're going to be editing the background panel just to make it look like our demo one. So again, we'll select the panel, open our element properties, and then come over here to our borders section. And this is where we're going to be choosing the size of the border. Now again, with the color picker, you can add these changes and see them take effect live in the editor. So you'll see I'm adding a heavy border to the top left one only, and it's doing it as I'm applying that, which is obviously really useful when you're designing pages because it tells you what the changes are as they happen. And we're going to want to add a radius for all the corners to be the same. So we can select this little button here, and that will just add our radius to each border. So if we add 20, that's a nice number. And then we're going to come to our background color and change it to a more transparent version. So this little toolbar to the right of the color picker, that's going to allow you to make the background transparent. Now we don't want it to be all the way down as you can't read the text, but if we go 3/4 of the way up roughly, so about 75, that looks a lot better. You can see the background image coming through there slightly, and you can still read the text. So that is our form completed. The next thing, or the last thing that we have to do on our desktop page is just add a privacy policy link. So if we add our text element there and bring it into the middle of the page, and we'll center align that as well, and just put privacy policy, and you'll notice that I haven't had to make changes to the text. It's already had our default styles applied because we are on the paragraph one. And then to hyperlink this to our privacy policy page, you just come up to this hyperlink logo here, and that will bring up the modal. And for the sake of the example, I'm just going to put in Convertri's privacy policy page, which is convertri.com/privacy. But obviously you can add your own privacy policy page to that. You don't need to use Convertri's, that's just for the sake of this example. And one thing that I should have actually just shown you there, but I didn't, is we want it to open on a new tab. Now you can choose to have this off if you want to, but the reason that we want to have it on is because when someone clicks on a privacy policy, we don't want them to come off of our sales page here. We want them to open in a separate tab so that if they do want to look at it, they can simply then close the tab and they'll be brought back to our sales page. Otherwise, they're going to get lost and they might not return and you might lose a conversion. So it's important if you want to anyway to have that on. I would recommend it though. So that is our desktop page done. And we're now going to want to make sure that our mobile page is looking nice as well. So if we come over to the mobile editor here, you'll see that this is the version that Convertri's created for us. We haven't made any changes to this. This is what the algorithm's done all by itself, and it's made a nice version of the mobile page. Now we are going to want to make a few changes to it though, or a brief change really, and we'll also just show you that if you did want to make a change on the mobile page, let's just say you wanted to have the heading down there and the main text at the top for some reason, you could do that on the mobile page. And if you went back to desktop, it would be exactly the same as you left it. It won't affect the desktop page at all. So we don't actually want it to be like that though. We want our original version. Actually, if we show you like this, so where I made the changes, if we remobilize up here, what that will do is it will go straight back to the original version. So that's a really nice feature within Convertri. If you do make changes to your mobile page, that you aren't happy with, you can just click that remobilize button and it will put it straight back to the original version of it for you. So the one change that we are going to make on here is just to change the default font size scaling for our mobile page. So if we highlight this as so, and it's at 150 at the moment just because the pixels are smaller on mobile, so it increases the size of it by default, but that's quite big for our page. So if we go to 120, that's a lot better now. That's a much nicer size there. And we can do the same with these two. If we actually change it in our page settings, you can do that as well. So that will then apply that to all the text on the page. As you can see, it's made the changes to the other two bits of text as well. So we've got our mobile page set up now as well. And that is our opt-in page done for the moment. Now, we are going to want to wire up our form, but first thing we're going to do is set up our thank you page so that we have somewhere for our prospects to be redirected to. So we'll save our page and come back out into the main funnel menu. And then we're going to make our thank you page, but instead of starting from scratch like we did with the opt-in page, we're going to use Convertri's clone page feature and make an exact copy of our opt-in page. And this is kind of like if you were to use a template, you don't actually have to start from scratch. You can just make small changes to the page. So you can see it's duplicated the page exactly for us. And if we open it up now, we can actually edit this page to make it look more like a thank you page. So obviously we don't actually want the form anymore. So we're going to get rid of the stuff we don't need. So select the form submit elements and get rid of those. You can just use the backspace key to delete that. And we don't need the spam text either. And then we'll edit our text here because we've already used this copy to make, hopefully, get a conversion. So we'll just say something along the lines of, click the button below for 7 tips for slimming without starving. And then if we move our download button up, we can then resize the panel so that there isn't loads of dead space there. And we'll move that down slightly. And then again, just to make sure it is all in the middle, we'll select our panel and center align the elements. I think they were all in the center, but it's quite nice to do that, just sort of reassurance that they are. So the one difference between our button from the last page is that we no longer want it to be submitting a form. So we don't want it to be set to sign up. What we want instead is it to be set to download. And that will allow us to add a file into our button so that when someone clicks on it, they are actually given the lead magnet that we've set up. So if we come into the select file option, it's going to bring up a similar page to when we added our image. Now we see this is the one that I've already added. Again, I'm going to delete that now and then I'll upload it again just to show you. It is worth noting that the maximum file size is 40 megabytes. So if you did have one bigger than that, you could like host it yourself somewhere like Amazon S3 and then add that link either into a PDF and upload the PDF, or you could set your button to be on link and give the Amazon S3 link in that section here. I'll show you that once I've actually I'll show you that now before we add the file. So if you put it to link, it's going to bring up the option to add one, and you'll be able to put like where your file is hosted there. But for this example, we're going to use the download feature. So we'll open it up, upload, and then choose our file. And then once we've done that, we'll select it. And that now will add to our page. When someone clicks on that, they'll be asked to download it. So you can choose force download on click, which basically will, if someone clicks the button to download it, it will instantly start downloading to their computer. Now I'm going to leave that off just because it's not really a necessity. And instead, what it will do is it'll open the PDF on like a new tab, and they'll be able to download it from there. And just for design purposes only, we're going to change the background color of it slightly, just so it's a little bit different. So we'll go for like a forest green. Again, you can see it's applying those changes, which is nice because it allows us to find like the best color. So we'll leave it about that. So that is our thank you page set up now, and we can go ahead and publish that. So the publish tool is in the top right, and you'll see that it's brought up our domain. So mine, in this case, is just a Convertri subdomain. If you had your own custom domain, then that's what would apply here. And then the path is basically just the little bit after the URL, the main URL. So this is the full URL once you've published it. So we'll just call that thank you, as it is our thank you page. So we'll publish that now. And that is now a live page. And if we come back out into our funnel, we can now finish up our opt-in page by connecting the form to the thank you page. So before we go back into the opt-in, if we use our arrow here and drag that onto this page, what that does is it's basically telling Convertri that these two pages are linked. So people from this page, we want them to end up at this thank you page here. So when we set up our form in a minute, it's going to automatically suggest this page as our thank you redirect. So if we go back into our opt-in page now, and I'll be able to show you that. So the Forms tab is up here on this top toolbar. And if we open that up, we can see we've got a whole host of API autoresponders that you can connect up to your Convertri account. Now, for this example, I'm going to use MailChimp as that's the one that I've got integrated. But like I say, you can use any of these, GetResponse, Aweber, all the ones listed here, you're free to use. So you select that, and then it will bring up your list that you've set up in your own autoresponder. In this case, I've only got the one, so we'll select the sign up list. And now it's going to bring up these fields that we have on our page and the field types as well. So you can see first name is set to match, and email are set to match as well. Now, you can't actually change it when you're using MailChimp, as that's something they set up automatically. You can't make an edit to that, but you are able to change the first name field if you wanted to have it as something different. Now, I'll show you in a second why it's important that these match up on the page to your form setup here. So if we go to next, just to complete the setup, you'll see that it's automatically added our thank you page. And if we had other pages in our funnel that we linked with an arrow, they would also be brought up here. But because we've only got one, it's only displayed the one page, and that is the one we wanted to send them to. So that is all good, and we can finish that now. And here is where you can see you can set different field types. If you go onto your form elements, if we use first name for an example, and then form field settings, you can assign a type to it. Now, the main thing when you're doing this is to make sure that it is matching the type you set up here and the type that we just had in our form. And that's because Convertri is basically looking for matching fields to decide where the information from each form input, which is these things here, will go into your autoresponder. So it's important that they match for that reason. And we can set both of these to required if we want to. So that basically means that the form can't be submitted without either one of these pieces of information being added as well. So now we have our page all set up and completed. We can go ahead and publish this one as well. So we'll just call that opt-in. And that has finished publishing, and we can now view this page, and you'll see how fast it loaded there, even with this really high resolution image. The quality hasn't been lost at all, and it loaded within like 1 second. So that is really good to see. And now if any of you wanted to go and test this out, you'll be able to go on, upload your information and download the lead magnet. And we now have a live working funnel. So that is the end of that demo. Has anyone got any questions on anything we've just seen there? Anything they want me to go over again before we move on to like the editor side of it? And we've had a question in about these blue guidelines here. Basically, they're just on the page to like show you what you can see. So for most monitors, this is going to be your safe zone, but these were set 4 years ago, so pretty much anything like just outside of these is going to be safe as well. So for example, on here, you can see everything's in shot. So you can make them bigger if you wanted to. If you come to display here and then go to guideline width, you can increase them like so. And basically what that is, it's just a safe zone. But it doesn't actually affect the live page at all. It's more just a guidelines. And Monica's asking, is this being recorded? It is indeed. All our webinars are recorded and they'll be uploaded as a replay within sort of a week's time. If you come to our knowledge base at help.convertri.com, I'll just add that into the chat now as well, so you all have the link. And then you'll see there's a Getting Started Webinars tab here. And all of these are our replays of our Getting Started webinars. They're all listed here. Any other questions before we move on to the editor tricks and tips section? Okay, no worries. As I said, we'll have like a Q&A section at the end as well. If anyone thinks of anything in the meantime, don't be afraid to ask, and hopefully we'll get those answered for you. So we can come out of this funnel now, this page, and we'll go onto our pre-loaded template page. So this is actually one of Convertri's template pages, and we're going to use this now to show you some of my favorite little tips and tricks within the editor, just to help make your life using Convertri so much easier. So the first thing that I would suggest doing when you come in to start making a page is come up here to display and turn on the element outlines. And what that does is it puts like these hot pink lines around each element on the page. And the reason that's so useful is because if you're trying to select an element and you don't know where it finishes, with these guidelines, you can actually see that for yourself. So imagine I'm trying without the guidelines. I'll just show you here. I don't know where the text element ends. So if I'm trying to select this text here, I'm clicking in the middle, what that's going to do instead is bring up the panel. Whereas with the outlines on, I can see that I need to be clicking within this box here. The same goes for the prices and the heading. So that's why they're really useful to have on, especially when you're just starting out on Convertri. Now, the next thing that we can show you is removing a whole section of a page at once. So we'll take this menu section as an example, just because it's got loads of different elements within it. And if we wanted to delete these one by one, it would probably take quite a lot of time. So instead of that, what we can do is select the backing panel that contains all of the elements. And once we've done that, all we have to do is either delete selected up here, and that will get rid of it. Or if I undo it and go back to the menu and select the backing panel, I can even backspace like so. I'm sure you all heard my keyboard there, and that will delete the entire section. And you don't have to select every element and go through and individually delete each one. Now we've got, as you can see on the page, now we've done that, we've got this big area of white space, and that's not really what we want on a page. We don't want to publish it like this because someone might come along and think, oh, it's the end of the page, or it's just not a good look really design-wise. So you might think that now we've got the gap, we have to move each element up like so, moving this up and then moving the one below it up. But that is not the case. Thankfully, Convertri has a great feature where you can select the element below the white space and then come up here to remove white space above. And what that will do is automatically snap that element that we had selected up to the next one. And as you can see, the white space is now gone. So if we scroll down the page, there's no need for us to move any elements up or down. It's already done that for us, and there's no breaks in the page. So obviously it's looking a lot more fluent now. But what if you wanted to actually create some space on the page? So let's say we wanted to have that white space so that we could add a new section to our page. Well, you can also do that without the hassle of moving every element down itself. So as you can see, we've got loads of images here, and we've even got more text down below. The page is fairly long, so if you wanted to make space, you might think that you have to move each separate element down, but that is not the case. If you select the element where you want the space to appear above, so in this case, we want the space to appear above this about section, and then you hold Shift on your keyboard and drag it down, as well as moving this about section to create the space there. It won't overlap with the one below. What it does is it pushes the whole page down as well. So as you can see now, none of the page is overlapping, but we've also got this white space here where if we wanted to, we'd be able to add a new section to our page. But we're going to go ahead and undo that just for the sake of this example. And next thing we're going to show you is another keyboard shortcut. And that is basically the same as the clone tool that we saw earlier, but instead of having to, say you're working on an element down the bottom of the page here, instead of having to go up and click clone, you can select the element and then hold down Alt and just drag it like so, and that will make a copy of the element. So essentially exactly the same as the clone tool, but you can just do it a lot easier by using the keyboard shortcut, which is Alt drag. So we'll do that just for all three of these, as we can use those in a minute to show you another feature. And that feature that we can show you is our alignment tool. So you can see here we've got these images, they're all a little bit skew width at the moment, which doesn't look great on the page. So we want them all to be in line and spread out evenly. So if we add a backing panel to our page, just so that we can get all of these images contained in the same place. So we'll resize it so that it includes them all. And once we've done that, we'll send it to the back. These tools here, you can reorder things on the page, and then we'll bring it forward and until it's behind the images. So we know now that if we move this panel, the images are going to come with it. So we'll put that there and we'll select our backing panel. And similar to what we did with our form in the lead funnel demo, if we come to this icon here and use the drop down, it's going to bring up all of our alignment options. Now the one that we want to use in this case is middle align. And what that will do is snap all of these into the center of this panel like so, so that they're all in line. That looks a lot better already, as you can see, but we still have this uneven space between each of the images. So we'll come back to our alignment tools, and then we're going to want to justify horizontally, which works in the exact same way as the justify vertically that we used earlier with our form elements, except this time it's doing it horizontally for us. So you can see the space in between all of those is now even, and that looks a lot better on the page. And we can change this to like a transparent, and it will still work in the exact same way. We can still move it around, and that just looks a lot neater. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about to do with the Convertri editor, and the last sort of really good advice I'd have for any of you starting out on making your own pages, is to do with our mobile editor. So as you can see, like we showed you earlier, it will create an automatic mobile version of the page. So if we have a look at that now, you'll see that this is what it's come up with. Now, unlike on our desktop page, we can already see that there's some differences. So here we've got bread, pastry, and coffee coming one after another, whereas we actually want it to be bread and then the text relating to that below it, and then the same for pastry with the text and coffee with the text as well. Now, the reason for this is because when Convertri is reading a page to create a mobile version, it hits from left to right, from top to bottom. So what that means is it will come along and hit this element first, then it will follow that and hit this one, then it will go to the image. And because down here, bread, pastry, and coffee are the next three from left to right, it's going to hit those three in order and put them on our mobile page in that order. So as you can see, we've got those three first, and then we're following on to these headings. Now, as much as that is really clever and obviously saves us a lot of time making a mobile page from scratch, we don't actually want it to look like this. We want it to be like this so that they're together. Now, one way we can get around this, And one thing that I really would stress to remember is to use our panels to make sure that they're contained together. And that is because Convertri's editor, mobile algorithm, sorry, understands the principle of containment. So if we use a panel like this, send it to the back and bring it forward, just so we've got all these within it. Now, when the mobile algorithm comes along to read the page, it's going to hit this panel first, and these two elements within it are also going to be shown at the same time. So if we just do that for these next two as well, just to make it nice and complete. So again, we'll send that to back, bring it forward. And now if we go over to our mobile page, you'll see that it's reordered the page without us having to do anything. Just by using the panel, what it's done is it's put them all together. So they're now contained essentially as almost like one element, although you can still move them around separately if you want to. It's put them together. And that obviously is a lot better for people to read the page instead of reading the three headlines first and then all the text together. We've now got it nice and separated for us. So that is definitely the main thing to remember when you're building pages, is to try and build a page that is going to make your life a lot easier on mobile, so you're not having to make loads of changes. And we've got a question in from Ronnie. He says, what's the purpose of moving to the back, then returning to the front when paneling the elements? So essentially what it does, if I show you now, so if I just move this out of the way, like so, and add it again, if I add the panel and it is in front of the bread text and the descriptive text, that's not going to contain the element. So it just moves around on its own, as you can see. So by sending it to the back, that makes it the furthest most element back. But because we have this white panel here, if I just show you, this is a panel, it's our background panel for this section. We then need to bring it back one level. And because I've deselected it, I won't be able to do so. So if I now undo that, just so I've got it back, right, so send it to the back. And then what it basically means by bringing it forward again, we aren't bringing it all the way forward. We're only bringing it forward once so that it's in front of this panel here, this white panel. So now it contains them all and we can move it around. Yeah, exactly, Ronnie. So it's basically when you add the panel to the page, it's on top of the text elements. So by moving it back and then bringing it forward just once so that it sits behind these, it's now containing them. So you don't want to bring it all the way back to the front. So you don't want to bring to the front, you just bring it forward once and that puts it behind it so that it's contained. Does that make sense for you now? Great. Okay, so one last thing we can show you then is a similar thing to do with our containment, but it's with these social icons. So if we come over to our mobile page again and we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see that it's laid them out in vertically. Now we don't actually want it to look like this. It looks a lot better if they're spread out horizontally. So we can use our trusty backing panels again. And what that will do is we delete that and go back down. And instead of clicking it, if we drag it, that will add it where we drag it to. So if we do the same thing that we just did with our bread, coffee and pastry text, add the panel, send it to the back and then bring it forward one. And because I've got those selected, it's going to move them. Apologies for this. There we go. Okay, so now it's movable and we've got them all contained. And if we send it to the back, bring it forward once, again, they're now contained within it. And just like before, when we go to our mobile page, it will have reformatted that automatically for us so that they're now spread out horizontally. Now, the one thing to bear in mind with this is that when we're doing it for our mobile page, it has a maximum width of 300 pixels. So if we make our panel wider, and let's just double check that it is wider. Yeah, so you can see here it's 349. We'll just make it 357. And if we go to our mobile page, it's put them back vertically. That's because it's hit the maximum width on the mobile editor. So it's not going to allow it to do that. So you want to make sure that it's below 300. So you can either change it using the arrows like so, or using the drag handles. And that's comfortably below 300 now. So if we go back to our mobile editor, you can see it's put them across horizontally for us. So that is going to complete the demo, and that is the end of the editor hack section. Has anyone got any part of that, those little features there that they want me to go over again? Or if not, has anyone got any questions about the editor or about Convertri in general at all? We can open up now to just more general questions. If anyone's got any queries or anything like that, we can get those answered for you. And we've had a question come in about adding a custom domain to Convertri. So we can definitely show you sort of where to go to do this. I can't show you the whole process on this webinar just because it takes a couple of hours for that to all get sorted out. But if we come to our account section here in the top right, and then go over to our domain section, you can see you've got the options to add a new subdomain, add a Convertri domain, or use Convertri with a new domain. So this is going to be where you add your custom domain. So if you click add, it'll bring up this modal here, and this is where you'd add your custom domain. Now you'd obviously need to purchase it first from a registrar somewhere like GoDaddy. Once you've done that though, you can add it in here, and then if you follow the setup, which I will put in the chat for you all now. So if we go to our knowledge base, custom domains, and if you follow this guide, that will get you on your way to setting up a custom domain. And we've got another question in from Ronnie. Instead of having a lead magnet as like our product on the page, can you hook it up to PayPal prior to the thank you page? So yeah, if you wanted to have like a product on the page instead of a lead magnet, then you could definitely do that. You don't have to have it as a free button, a free product, sorry, as a button. You can change the mode. So if you had it to like purchase, and that would set that up for not purchase, sorry, open checkout, and you'd set up your products in here. So you can see I've got a product set up. If I put that in there and add it to open checkout, when I publish the page, we put in, that's going to bring up our checkout here. So as you can see, you can then deliver the product like that. And you would still need to set up the redirect within the product section, which is already set up for us because we had that arrow, but that would enable you to do that, yeah. And we've had another question in from Brad. Can we go over how to search the images again? Yeah, that's fine, not a problem. So if you come over to our image tab here, this is where you add your images to your page. So if we click that, and it's going to bring up all the images, you can see these are the ones I've added in the past. So there's two ways you can do it. You can either upload it from here and choose a file from your computer, or you can search using our Pixabay integration. So if memory serves from earlier, I think someone had baseball typed in. So if you type in baseball, then it brings up loads of related images to that search. So this is how, using our Pixabay integration, you can do that, and it pulls straight from the site. That is not a problem, Brad. Is there anyone else got any other questions? And we've got one question in just coming now about where to add scripts to your page. So if you wanted to add like a custom script, you come over here to the page settings, and if you select the custom script option, add page script here, you can name it so that you're aware of which one it is. If you're using multiple, add a description, and then you add the code in here, and that will be applied to your page. And you can either do it to run on page load, or you can add like an action and event trigger. So, and that will run the script as well. Thank you for the kind words, Nick. I'm glad that you're enjoying the webinar and the product as well. Any final questions then before we finish that up today? Okay, it looks like we're out of questions. So again, as I said, there will be a replay if you do want to have a look any other time. That will be added if I just bring that up for you now. On our knowledge base, help.convertri.com, getting started webinars, that's where the replay will go. And I've put that in the chat for you all as well. You'll be able to see that there. You're very welcome, Jane. I'm glad you enjoyed. Okay, I'm going to leave it there then, guys. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you all enjoyed that. And I hope to see you all again very soon.